Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. Today I have a very ridiculous story for you guys. So, very recently I started a new job and we were talking about it, and so I explained this story again yesterday. So it's fresh on my mind, and so I just wanted to share it with you because it's literally ridiculous. Like, I can't even explain to you how ridiculous this story is. About 3 years ago, when I met this guy, it was just like similar to the last situation. He got to know me progressively and we became pretty good friends. Like, he didn't ever act interested in me. He had a girlfriend at the time. We were friends and we always like talked about how we should hang out sometime or whatever, but we never did. So he was 24 years old. I don't know if I said that or not. I think I did, but he's 24 at the time. Like, this was during the summer. After that summer, I didn't see him for almost a year. And so we kind of just dropped off, basically. It wasn't even a year, it was a few months, I'd say, actually. We started talking again, and we became really good friends again. It was just like basically like we picked back up where we had left off. We became friends again. So he literally like was trying to be my best friend, trying to be involved in my life, like was Snapchatting me, was talking to me about life, just everything. Was talking to me about literally everything. We would sit, like I would go to the place he worked frequently, like almost every day, and we would sit and talk about how life and the people, like how I was in love with a guy and how he didn't love me back and he was in a similar situation, and we just kind of bonded over that. He told me some stuff about the guy and I addressed it to him and it caused this whole big drama. That was my first big drama that he drug me into. We're still friends, like we're talking all the time, whatever. He drug me into another huge thing, and it involved his friends and it ended up involving me and the guy I loved. It involved his girlfriend and it literally involved so many people in my life, and I just don't understand how it all connected, but literally it was mind-boggling, this drama that happened. After this whole little scandal drama nonsense happened, his two other friends basically ganged up against, this is his story to me, they ganged up against him and were like, they wouldn't talk to him. They started like cutting him out of their life. So he was like, well, I'm just gonna cut them out of my lives also. So he like quits hanging out with them. He starts hanging out with me, and he starts hanging out with like another girl that he worked with, and then this other girl and his ex-girlfriend, actually two of his ex-girlfriends, which was strange to me, and I don't know why. Like, I thought that was normal for him to hang out with his ex-girlfriends, but he hung out with his ex-girlfriends all the time. This is where everything begins to change. After everything happens and we start hanging out more, he starts telling me, this was right before Suicide Squad came out, and he starts telling me that I'm crazy, which I'm pretty crazy. Like, ask anyone who knows me, I'm pretty freaking crazy. So I was like, yeah, you're right, I am crazy, but like, I'm crazy fun, and I'm crazy in a good way. And he was like, yeah, you are. He was like, but I also think you have a dark side to you. And I was like, well, you might be more correct than you know. And he was like, you know, in all this stuff that I've done, I've been made out to be the bad guy. And he said, you know, I probably am the bad guy. He was like, I'm just the Joker. Call me the Joker. Like, and he would always talk about how he was the Joker. And I was like, oh, that's kind of strange, but okay, like, you be the Joker if that's what you want to be. And so we were outside talking one night, and he was like, you know how I told you you had that crazy streak in you? And I was like, yeah, why? He was like, if I'm the Joker, that makes you Harley Quinn. And I was like, hey, she's hot. Like, I can dig. Like, I can get down with that. We became the Joker and Harley Quinn. So after all this happened and they start cutting themselves out of each other's lives, he basically made his two best friends quit their job there and go somewhere else. After that, we started hanging out more and he started acting really weird. And he would just talk about how like he was a terrible person, and like that's why he called himself the Joker. He was like, I'm just a terrible person and nobody really knows it. And he said, I hide behind this beautiful facade with it. And he was not an attractive guy. I don't know why this was a thing. But anyway, he was like, I just hide behind this beautiful Fascade, this good boy Fascade. And I go to church and I pretend like everything is perfect in my life and people believe me. And I was like, what? But I would just be like, yeah, like, I could see that. Like, I pretend around a lot of people too. And so I've always been really, really good at reading people, but I'm really, really bad at picking people. Because I feel like I have this problem where I just want to help all the wounded and broken and emotionally scarred people of the world. And so I pick bad guys to fall for, and I pick horrible best friends. But I'm so good at reading people. And it's ridiculous, like, the things that I can figure out about a person. But yet, I'm so bad at reading them, as in, like, if they're gonna stab me in the back, if they're gonna break my heart. Like, I'm so bad at that thing. And I guess maybe, I don't know why. I don't know why it's a thing, but it's a thing. So he starts telling me all this stuff like he's a horrible person, but then he also starts telling me that, like, with being a horrible person, he believes that he can control people and control situations and make outcomes the way he wants them to be. And I was like, you don't have the power to do that. And he was like, but I do. And he was like, let me list you off examples of, like, when I've controlled the situation and the outcomes came out in my favor the way. And so he would start telling me stuff, and, like, it would happen the way he wanted it to, and the outcome would favor him every time. And he would end up looking like a good guy to every single person except the opposing person. It literally would blow your mind. So we start, like, hanging out more, and this is when I was a senior in high school. I was about to graduate high school. I had just turned 18. I had became legal. For him to date me, that was the reason none of these boys dated me in the past, is because I was not legal. I became legal, and so I had invited him to my graduation, and he was like, yeah, like, for sure, I will. These boys were always extremely sexual with me, and I was just like, not about it. And so I was wearing this tank top that had a zipper up the back that, like, actually zipped up and down. And so I had walked down to my car, and he was like, if you don't want boys to give you that kind of attention, why do you wear stuff like this? And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, nothing shows from this. And he was like, oh yeah? And I was like, yes, nothing shows. And he takes it and unzips it in the middle of, like, the parking lot at my high school. People were still there, like, players, like, people that played sports were still there. He unzips it, and, like, this two sides of my shirt are just flopping open. And I was like, why would you do that? And he was like, I just want you to know that you're so hot and that I want you so badly, but you're not about it. And I was like, you're not. I'm not about it. Like, I'm not about having sex with you. That's just not who I am. And he was like, you kill me. You know so much, and you're so hot, and yet you're just such a good person, and you don't do bad things with guys, and you, like, it's hard for you to find a boyfriend, and it's crazy to me. I was like, yeah, I know. And then he asked me, he said, after everything that happened, do you still love that guy? And I was like, no, I don't anymore. I said, it's really hard for me to get over those feelings because I was in love with him for so long, but I don't love him anymore, and I want to move on from him. And he was like, that's cool. He was like, I'm glad, like, you can move on. He said, I'm glad I could be a part of that. And I was like, I'm glad you can too. And I was like, in fact, I actually like someone else right now. And he was like, oh yeah? He was like, oh yeah, who is it? And I was like, I don't think I want to tell you. And he was like, oh, is it one of my friends? And I was like, no. And he's like, good, because they're douchebags. And I was like, it's not one of them. Said, is it me? And I was like, honestly, yeah, it is you. Like, I've started to get feelings for you. He was like, well, you know, that's good, because I really have feelings for you too. But I'm not going to ask you out until I talk to your parents about it, because I know there's a huge age difference between me and you, and I know that, like, my parents knew him too. They were like, he said, I know that they might have a problem with that. So I talked to my parents about it, and they were cool with it. So the next time he sees my dad, he talks to my dad about it, and my dad was was like, dude, you can take her on a date. It doesn't matter to me. It's her choice. She's 18 now. She can choose whoever she wants to date. So after this whole graduation thing, like party and everything, he came. We were friends. We had fun. There was always a reason. Like, he took me out on a date or more than one. I honestly can't remember. I feel like he took me out on like 4 or 5 dates. So he came to my graduation, everything, sat with my parents, like acted like he wanted to be involved in my life, was involved in my life so much for like 5 or 6 months. After graduation, he starts talking more and more about like how he's a bad guy. And I was like, you're not a bad guy. And so one day we were just talking and he said, what if I told you I was a bad guy? And I said, you tell me this all the time and I don't believe you. And he said, but what if I told you that when I say I can control situations and people, I can? He said, what if I'm controlling you right now? And I said, you're not controlling me. You don't have control over me. It's extremely hard for any person to have control over me. And he said, why? And I said, you know why? And he was like, yeah, you're right. I mean, it makes sense because you see through all of everyone's crap that they spew and you know. And I was like, yeah, you're right. I do know. He said, but I also want you to know that I'm an empath and I can control people's feelings. And he said, what, you don't know if I've been controlling you this whole time. He said, I can do it on everyone else. And he starts listing off examples and it starts making sense. And if you don't know what an empath is, they are people that basically believe that they can take someone's feelings and change them to however they want them to be. Like, they can control people's feelings. They can control others' feelings. So I was like, no, you don't do that to me. You like me too much. And he was like, maybe you're right. But would I tell you? I wouldn't tell you, so you wouldn't know. And I was like, no, nobody has control over me like that. Or so I thought. But I also began to notice this would be a recurring thing with him. And so we're hanging out like almost every day over the summer at this point in time. When I start to realize this, he said that he had control over me, and I saw it, but I ignored it in the situation. Like, I ignored so many things that I shouldn't have. But like every 2 or 3 days, we would end up back on this same conversation, or we would end up on a conversation about our feelings for each other, or we would end up on a conversation of why he couldn't date me at this point in time, or why we wouldn't work out, and I would end up bawling. And I'm not an emotional person. I'm a very extremely emotionally stable person. When I cry, I cry. When I'm sad, I'm like sad. And when I'm happy, I'm happy, which is most of the time. But when I was with him, I would cry all the time. And I couldn't tell you before then, like, when I cried. It was ridiculous how much I cried around him. And he was just like, he would always wipe my tears away and like comfort me and be like, see, I told you I'm a bad person. And I'm like, no, you're not a bad person. I don't know why this always happens. And he's like, I'm telling you, like, I control your emotions, and even inadvertently, like, I make you cry all the time and I make you unhappy in some way. And this continued on through like the rest of the summer. We would talk about how we would always talk about dating, but he also had other things going on in his life that, like, he was very mentally unstable at the time, and we would like get into in-depth conversations about this. And he also had this problem of not like cheat on girls, but like make girls cheat on their boyfriends all the time. He would have sex with all of his best friends or coworkers' girlfriends. There was so much wrong with him mentally, and I was like, you need to go to therapy. I said, as much as I read you and as much as we talk about things and as much as I can help, I am not certified in this, and you need actual help. He didn't listen to me at first, and so he got to more and more to where he would listen to me. Eventually, he started going to a therapist. He wouldn't tell me the results of what they had diagnosed him with. And so this is where the story gets literally insane. So it was beginning to get closer and closer to time for me to leave, and we both like didn't want to accept that fact. Your college is so far away, like, I don't know if I can drive that all the time, and you don't need to drive back all the time for me. It was obvious that we were going to struggle with this situation, but we weren't technically together either. So one night, we were on our way to get something to eat, and he said, you know how we talk about how I'm a bad person all the time? And I said, yeah. And he said, what if I told you that I believe and supernatural beings. And I said, what do you mean? And he starts explaining things to me, and he said, I guess being an empath and reading people's emotions, I have this ability to tell, like, when there's something different about a person. There's something different about me, and I don't know what it is. He said, anyone I meet, I can tell if they're human or if they're supernatural of some form, and then as I begin to get to know them, I can tell you what they are. And I was like, what? And he goes on to explain it further, and he was like, for instance, when I met you, you were really quiet, and he said that either meant that you were going to be an extremely stupid human or something ridiculously powerful. And I was like, what? But as I got to know you, he said, I realized that you were supernatural. I began to realize how powerful you were. There are a few people in my life who are very similar to you, and I can name them off for you. And he said, it's crazy how much y'all are alike. And I was like, what are you talking about? You're a wolf. And I said, I'm a wolf? And he said, yeah, you're a wolf. This boy knew that I loved to read about werewolves and paranormal and supernatural things. He legitimately believes all of this. Still to this day, I'm pretty sure he legitimately believes all of this. And he said, yeah, you're a wolf. He said, and you're a powerful wolf, but you're still a pup. And I was like, excuse me? What? You are an alpha. You will have your own pack one day, and it will be of other wolves just like you. He said, why do you think that I have you hang out with all these other girls? He said, they're all wolves also. I believe that you could be their leader one day. He said, you are very powerful, and you will be a extremely powerful alpha female wolf. And I was like, I'm glad you think I'm powerful, and I'm glad that I'm gonna be powerful and strong, but I ain't no wolf. I am not a werewolf. I wish I was a werewolf. That would be freaking awesome. But I am not a wolf. Like, that does not exist in reality. I wish it did, but that's not a real thing. But I went along with it because I was under this dude's spell, and he was literally crazy. I don't know why I went along with it. I think he actually did have some kind of empathic power over me or some bullcrap like that. A few days later, and he continues to every day elaborate on these theories of how people are supernatural and the different people that are supernatural in his lives and the ones that he's still unsure of what they are. He said, I wish I was a wolf, but I think I'm something much more evil than that. He said, I have a lot of wolf traits, but he said, in ways I also think I'm a vampire, because he said, I think I feed off people's feelings and people's energies. And he said, so I don't know what I am. And so one day he starts telling me that when he was younger, him and his best friend, who was a witch, his best friend from like his childhood, who was a witch, who could tell the future and see into the, like, a third eye, and could see into the supernatural side of things. They created this being, but he believed that they might not have actually created it. It might have been based off something true. And I can't remember what he told me it was. It had a name. And he basically told me that it was a evil spirit energy type thing. Demon, an embodiment of evil, an embodiment of the devil. Something like that was evil, that could basically create supernatural beings, either evil or good. Or if it was something that had laid dormant in a person, that he could bring out, or that this thing could bring that being forth in a person. And he said, I don't believe that we just created it from nothing. He said, I believe that I am that being. He said, I believe that I have an alter ego that is evil, that feeds off of others' emotions and feelings. He said, I attract the supernatural. He said, I can tell when someone is supernatural. And he said, if it's dormant, I believe that I can spark that. He said, it can be evil or it can be good, but most things I create are, he said, anything that I create is evil. He said, because I have the power to create whatever I want. And he said, ultimately, it will make its own, whatever I create will make its own decision in the end, but ultimately it comes from an evil power. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he was like, I embody this evil power, this evil spirit that can create these beings. What? Come again? Please tell me what? Where? Is this real life? Like, is this real life? Who are you? What are you? What? What? literally, what? And I said, really? And I just went along with it at this point in time. But in my head, I was like, what? What even? What? Like, how do you make this stuff up? Where did you get these ideas from? Like, this is not a storybook. This is real life, man. Like, that's not a real thing. He began to drink. Well, he was always drinking, but he began to drink more and more and more. And he would tell me that he would see evil things at night, like following him, like demons following him. And I was like, what? And I said, do you see them when I'm around you? And he said, I'm not going to tell you. And I was like, what? You're not going to tell me? He said, yes. You see them when I'm around? And he was like, yes, but I'll always protect you from them. And I was like, I'm gonna get the F out. No, bye. You see one, I'm deucing. Like, see you later. I am not playing the demon game. And he was like, but I'm evil, so I attract them. So it's just something you have to get used to me. And for some reason, I still played into his game. And one night, I finally convinced him to show me what they diagnosed him with. And he had strong signs of a psychopath and a sociopath. Makes sense, right? And he had 2 other things, but I don't even remember what they were. But he was literally insane, like clinically insane. That's fine, like, I understand. Psychology, huge interest of mine. But what even? Where did this come from? Why did I play into this? Why did I let it happen for so long? Literally all the questions. So many questions of why that I was not asking at the time. I didn't ask them until it was too late, and we didn't even talk anymore. Up until the point that I left for college, we were still very much talking. We had both come to the conclusion that it was not a good time for us to date because he had too many issues at the time. Obviously, clearly he had too many issues, but he basically still told me every day that he believed that I was going to be a powerful alpha wolf and that he was an evil embodiment of Satan or something that could control things and control supernatural beings. And I'm pretty sure to this day, he still believes this. Literally, probably one of the craziest people I've ever met. I tried to make him my boyfriend, which was a terrible idea. Looking back at it now, I realize, what was I thinking? And why? So many questions I still don't know the answer to. But I still occasionally see this boy and he acts like we were never, like, he just acts like he's my best friend again. And there was not a lot of drama and he's not freaking crazy, but he is freaking crazy still. So my point in telling you this story is that if a guy seems crazy, he probably is. He's probably a freaking psychopath. So maybe you should, listen to your parents. And 2, if he seems crazy, get out before the crazy overtakes you also and he starts controlling you. So that's my story. That's about it. So if you like this story and you want to hear more stories like it, oh god, my glasses are all tangled up in my hair. Hold on, we'll just finish without them. If you like this story, please like, comment, and subscribe. Give me feedback in the comments. Until next time, guys, just remember, I love you. Bye.